Have you ever had that intense feeling that you're just different from others? You've tried to fit in, but you're not very good at it. And even more, it just doesn't feel right. Something feels off, and no matter how hard you try, you just can't put your finger on what makes you different and why. Well, I might have an answer for you. If you've felt like you've never fit in with the world, you might be an INFJ. I know, what's an INFJ? This is one of 16 Myers-Briggs personality types, and it's the rarest type. In fact, estimates say that INFJs make up only about 1 to 3% of the population. Because of this type often feels different from others.
I don't know, it just feels different, like I'm included.
While you might think that being different is a bad thing, there are secret strengths that hide below the surface of any unique quality. In fact, today I'm going to show you the 7 signs that you're an INFJ and why your differences make you special. Make sure you watch to the end to discover one of your most powerful strengths of all and how you can use it. Sign number 1, you feel like you don't belong. As I just mentioned, if you're an INFJ, you probably feel different from others. The reason for this is due to your unique combination of traits. This combination results in you having contradictory personality dynamics that make you feel like you don't quite fit in with any one group. Let me explain. As an INFJ, you have strengths that lie in seemingly opposing areas. For instance, you might be highly logical one moment, then intensely emotional at another. You're a perfectionist, but you also come across as someone who is super laid back.
No, my usual style is a lot more laid back.
And you're great at both analytical tasks and ones that require lots of imagination. Because of these contradictory traits, you might have a hard time understanding where you fit in. You probably were someone who floated in between social groups in high school, hanging out with the science nerds one minute and the theater geeks the next, and feeling equally at home with both. Or when deciding on a career path, you may have struggled to decide whether you wanted to use your analytical skills in a science-related career or use your imagination to become a writer. Dumbledore from the Harry Potter series is an INFJ character who understands that he doesn't fully belong. However, he uses this trait to his advantage to connect with people from varying walks of life. For instance, Dumbledore connects as easily with Hagrid, who isn't even allowed to use magic, as he does with the wizard elites.
I wanted understood, Cornelius, that Hagrid has my full confidence.
In this clip, Dumbledore sees as much value in Hagrid, a mere groundskeeper, as he does in Fudge, the Minister of Magic and one of the most powerful people in the wizarding world. This inability to fit in with any one group is actually Dumbledore's greatest strength, and it allows him to have influence over numerous groups instead. Sign number 2, you hate small talk. Picture this. You're at a party where you don't know anyone. You find yourself talking to a stranger, and the topic of conversation focuses mainly on what you both do for work, where you're from, and where you're living. How do you react? If you're an INFJ, you might feel like you want to scream. That's because INFJs hate small talk. This isn't because you're not interested in others. In fact, it's the complete opposite. It's because you're so interested in other people that you want to get to know the real them.
You don't know the real me.
For instance, instead of small talk, you'd rather talk to someone, even a complete stranger, about their passions, hopes, and dreams. To you, small talk feels like a waste of time. But there's another reason that you hate small talk if you're an INFJ, and that's because you're an extreme introvert. This means that your energy is drained when you're around other people. Because you have a limited amount of energy to spend with others, you want to make it worth it. And surface-level conversations just don't cut it. Yoda from Star Wars is a great example of an INFJ. He lives alone and cares deeply about the Force, the energy field that connects all things in the universe. And in his conversations, he often gets to the heart of the matter, focusing only on what's important. Take a look at this clip when Yoda reacts to young Anakin telling him that he's afraid.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering.
Like most INFJs, Youre has a deep desire to get to the heart of things in his interactions, rather than dwell on surface-level exchanges. Sign number 3. You're obsessed with human psychology. If you hadn't already guessed, your disdain of small talk goes hand in hand with your obsession with human psychology. As I mentioned earlier, when you're talking with someone, you're not interested in surface-level conversations or what society deems important. You couldn't care less about the amount of money someone earns or their career status. Instead, you want to know all the nitty-gritty details of what makes them unique. Your obsession with human psychology is a huge part of why INFJs are nicknamed the Advocate. If you're an INFJ, you're hugely interested in other people and in helping them improve their lives.
The mission of the love is to improve lives through better relationships.
Of course, not everyone is used to sharing the deepest parts of themselves, and your interest can sometimes scare others off. But if applied correctly, you can use your interest in human psychology to make a profound difference in the lives of others. Take a look at how this interest in human psychology manifests in the show Westworld. In the show, Bernard is an INFJ who has an incredible interest in the android Dolores. In fact, he dives deep into her psychology in order to help her. Take a look at this clip in which he asks her to imagine 2 versions of herself.
Feels these things and asks these questions in one that's safe.
After this exchange, Bernard asks Dolores which version of herself she would rather be. By understanding what drives her and what she wants, he is better able to advocate for her. Sign number 4. You feel what others feel. Picture this. You walk into a room of strangers, and all of a sudden, you're hit by an intense sadness. Tears spring to your eyes, and you feel a lump in your throat as you struggle to hold back sobs. It's only moments later that you find out that someone in that room just learned that their mother had died. But how did you sense this before even knowing this information? Well, as an INFJ, you're incredibly sensitive to the moods of others. You can sense the emotional wavelengths of other people just by being in their presence. Some may call it empathy, others may call it clairvoyance. But at the end of the day, it's simply feeling what others feel. While you may think of this trait as a curse, I can assure you that it's a positive thing. In fact, this makes you different from others in the best way possible. It allows you to relate with other people, help them in times of need, and better understand the world around you. If you still don't believe that this is a strength, take a look at Belle from Beauty and the Beast, who exhibits many INFJ traits.
I'll never leave you again.
I'm afraid it's my time to leave.
We're together now.
Despite long periods of turmoil with the Beast, Belle is able to use her empathy to help the Beast when it matters most. In fact, immediately after this scene, Belle's empathy saves the Beast's life and transforms him back into a prince. Sign number 5. You're secretive. Do you want to know one of the biggest ironies of being an INFJ? You're great at reading and understanding the emotions of others, but you don't always understand your own emotions, and you have a difficult time sharing them.
But one of the best things about feelings is sharing them.
You value your privacy, and it can take years for you to let others in, even those most close to you. In fact, while you might know all the private details of the life of a friend or close family member, it can take them years to ever feel like they fully know you. While this may seem hypocritical, the reason for this is actually because you're using privacy as a form of self-protection. Let me explain what I mean by this. Because of how in tune you are with the world around you, you're also more affected by it. For instance, if someone you know betrays you, that betrayal will cut you more deeply than it does the average person. In an effort to protect against this, you are guarded when it comes to letting others into your inner sanctuary of feelings, thoughts, and beliefs. Other people will need to earn your loyalty and trust before you feel confident opening up to them. In the Twilight series, Edward Cullen is an INFJ who is incredibly sensitive to the world around him. Because of that, he struggles to open up to those around him. Take a look at this clip.
You gotta give me some answers.
Yes, no.
to get to the other side.
Because he's afraid of opening up to Bella, in this scene, Edward brushes off her questions with jokes. He does this not to be cruel, but because he cares so deeply about Bella that he doesn't want to risk opening his heart up to her only to get hurt. Sign number 6. You're a powerful yet reluctant leader. Time for a pop quiz. Do you know the 2 things that Eleanor Roosevelt, Mohandas Gandhi, and Jane Goodall have in common? The answer: they're all INFJs, and they're all leaders. One of the clearest signs that you're an INFJ is that you're a natural leader. But ironically, you're likely reluctant to step into the shoes of leadership roles. In other words, you have the traits that make a great leader, like empathy, the ability to listen, and the talent to see the future. But you may struggle to express these traits in the context of leadership because of your introversion. But when you do become a leader, you're an incredibly powerful one. Like Gandhi, Eleanor Roosevelt, and Jane Goodall, you have the ability to inspire others in tremendous ways and create huge change, not only in your immediate circle, but in the world around you. Aragorn from the Lord of the Rings series is a great example of a reluctant leader. He almost would rather live as a nomad than take the throne as king. But when he finally does lean into the traits that make him a great leader, he's highly compelling.
I see in your eyes the same fear that would take the heart of me.
By using his empathy and revealing that he feels the same fear as his men, Aragorn inspires courage and confidence in them, and ultimately, they win the biggest battle of their lives. Sign number 7. People think you're psychic. I promised I'd share one of the most powerful things that make you different, and here it is. Are you ready? If you're an INFJ, you've probably had the feeling of being psychic, and others may have noticed it too. Your intuition may manifest in different ways. Maybe you're thinking about someone and then suddenly get a call from them. Or you might be driving down the street and have a strange feeling that you should turn off the street early.
One wrong turn and you're lost.
And then moments later, there's a car crash where you would have been driving. I know your analytical side is probably fighting against this right now as I'm saying it. There's no such thing as magic powers, you're probably thinking. If this sounds far-fetched, it's not. In fact, the reasons for your psychic nature are rooted in scientific explanations. As an INFJ, your mind works in unique ways. One of those is that it's constantly taking in information and subconsciously looking for patterns and connections that your conscious mind isn't even fully aware of. In our car crash example, you might have sensed that another driver was tense and angry, and so felt like something bad was going to happen. Your mind is also more likely to look for the deeper meanings of situations, so you often see things below the surface. If a friend told you they were doing great, for instance, but you noticed sadness in their eyes, you might suspect that something else was going on. The ordinary person, on the other hand, might take your friend's words at face value. Lupin from the Harry Potter series is an INFJ with a strong sense of intuition. Take a look. Even though he's lost in deep sleep, Lupin's intuition can sense something is wrong. It's enough to pull him out of his sleep and save Harry from the Dementor. While you might not be using your intuition to rid the world of Dementors, you can have a tremendous impact with it nonetheless.